is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to the Shy Kid podcast presented by Give Us a Shot Network. So make sure you give us a like, give us a follow, check us out in the link in the bio below. We go live every single day, breaking down everything from WNBA, NFL, NBA, MLB, the Masters, and so much more. With that being said, let's get into it. Let's get in tune, man. I'm appreciative of everybody tuning in tonight, everybody being here. I understand the Cubs game is also in sync, going live right now. So I appreciate everybody who's taking the time out the day to either co-in-sync both of those right now, or potentially even just coming over here rather than watching the monstrosity that has been the Chicago Cubs. But with that being said, man, let's get into it. Let's get in tune. The Chicago Cubs are 32-34 on the day, obviously going up against the Tampa Bay Rays as we speak. Christopher Morel with a big moon shot earlier today. I haven't seen the score ever since I stopped watching in the second inning, but let's get into it, man. Let's talk about it. The Chicago Cubs are currently third in the NL Central and just a couple games away from being dead last. This isn't something we predicted going into the year. We didn't expect to be fighting all this time and just trying to fight for a spot. Now, we thought the Central was ours. That's really where most Cubs fans were. That's where most of us believed this team could be. That was the expectation after bringing in Craig Counsell. Everyone's saying the Cubs are up 2-0. Appreciate everybody in the live letting us know, keeping us up to date with everything Chicago Cubs. But man, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Why are we in this situation right now? What went wrong for the Chicago Cubs this season? And are they going to potentially be trading for a superstar caliber franchise player in Vladdy? I mean, Vladdy Guerrero Jr., we all know. We don't even have to have this conversation right now. We know who he is. We know who he can be for this organization. And I find it really interesting to me to see who is going to be most interested in trading for him at the deadline if he does become available. There's rumors that Toronto's just kind of blowing it up. We're going to see what potentially happens with Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette in Toronto. I expected this to be a team that was going to continue to have success over the next 10, 15 years. I really thought that duo was going to be the duo that everybody was super excited and super pumped about to see have just overwhelming success in Toronto that we haven't seen at the big league level in quite some time. So I'm curious to see what happens, especially with Bo. Bo's somebody I'm extremely interested in. I was talking to my guys, Germ and company, about it, and I said, I would love to get Bo Bichette in a Chicago Cubs uniform. Unfortunately, do I believe that he's willing to play third base for this team? I just don't. I don't see that quite yet. But there's a lot of reasons to why we're even having this conversation today, why we're even in this predicament. So let's get into it. Let's have a real conversation today. The Chicago Cubs, we're going to talk about the offensive leaders so far in the year. OPS belongs to Michael Busch at 781. Christopher Morel with RBIs 39, leading. I believe he's at 40 right now after that home run. Definitely at 13 now after his home run earlier today, 13 home runs. But here's the big thing for me. I find not only is Christopher Morel leading the team in most of these categories, obviously leading the team with 13 home runs, over 40 RBIs, 34 walks at the year. Michael Busch, obviously, with the highest OPS, OBS, and et cetera, et cetera. But the average, this is not a team that is hitting for average right now. This is a team that is desperately trying to find ways to get on base. Ian Happ does a great job of finding ways to get on base. He's really great at just being the best version of himself when he needs to be. He's been a little hotter lately. Everybody knows I'm not the biggest Ian Happ fan, but I do understand that he does exactly what he needs to do to be able to get on base. What does he do? Billy Beane, he gets on base. But averages, man. We have two guys batting over 260. One's batting 260 in Cody Bellinger. And the highest leader of the Chicago Cubs from an average standpoint this year is Mike Tauchman at 261. Those are not the words I want to be uttering right now. Last year, we talk about it all the time. You have to have a franchise player. You have to have somebody who's the face of the franchise. The Chicago Cubs were at their best, to the shock of nobody, when Chris Bryant was in an MVP season in 2016, 2017, and when Javier Baez kind of came into himself 2018, 2019. After that, you have a false identity of what this offense is, who leads the team, who is the guy that is going to go up to bat for this team and be able to produce whenever asked of him. Every single day, 365, 24/7. Out of 162 games a year, he's good for about 160 of them. That's the guy you want. That's the leader of this ball club that we are so desperately lacking. Last season, that was Cody Bellinger, who was comeback player of the year in the National League, had a phenomenal year. There's no doubt about it. But in this year, it's just not exactly what we want from Cody Bellinger in year two. We are lacking that face of the franchise. And right now, we're going to get into a couple conversations about what could potentially happen for the Chicago Cubs in order to turn things around. But how did we get here? What are the conversations looking like for the Chicago Cubs to even be in this predicament? Number one, I want to say it's injuries. We're going to get into that all year long. I mean, Seiya Suzuki, I love him. You know what I mean? He's been great. But, starting off the season, batting over 315, and then he gets injured with another oblique strain. The same thing that kept him out the beginning of 2023, kept him out the beginning of 2024, and then he had a little strain the other day. It was just a little tightness, but it's still obviously something that's bothering him. He's playing not at 100%, but when he is at 100%, this is the guy who I think is the dark horse MVP of this team. He can be the face of the franchise. At least maybe not face of the franchise, but the best of the bunch, I guess you could say. After that, Cody Bellinger obviously goes down as well. Nico Horner goes down. Dansby Swanson goes down. Ben Brown just went down today. Left and right, guys are going down. Patrick Wisdom started the year down. So the Cubs have just been hit with the injury bug since the season started. I mean, it's been bad. It's been bad, and there's really no other ways around that. And there's no excuses. It's next man up mentality all the time. We're not going to sit here and act like that's the end all be all to why the Chicago Cubs haven't had success this year. But I will say this: it has not contributed to our our lackluster offensive production, I should say. It's definitely something we got to continue to get better at. It's definitely something where the prospects, we need them to continue to grow, continue to get better, continue to pump out every single day. Hey, let's get Owen Casey up here as soon as possible. Let's keep working with James Triantos. Let's keep working PCA. Let's keep working all these other guys, Matt Shaw, the list goes on, because you never know. You never know. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. is a testament to that. One year he's winning a championship coming off the bench because he tore his ACL. Next year he's winning an MVP, swiping the most bags and hitting the most dingers in a year. Then the following year, tears his ACL again. So you never know in this league, man. You never know. And I think the big thing for me is, we always talk about the best ability is availability. KYP, know your personnel. You got to know when you can count on guys and when you're not going to be able to count on guys. And I think for me, the big thing for the Chicago Cubs moving forward is who are you going to be able to rely on when shit's tough? You know what I mean? Like, okay, I get it. Nico's not here. It is what it is. Dansby's not here. Oh, that's tough. Cody's not here. Seiya's not here. Who's going to be the guy that is not only available, but is able to still produce despite his teammates being on the IL, despite his teammates maybe on an injury stint in Iowa? You know what I mean? Like that's the questions we need to ask. And I think right now, as much as I would love to say that's been Christopher Morel, there's also times where I think Christopher Morel just is a little lackluster. His production isn't consistent. That's something we want to continue to see from him from an offensive standpoint. Yeah, this is a guy that I said in the beginning of the year I believed could be an all-star in 2024. I mean, right now he's leading the league with 13 home runs, 40 RBIs. It's only June. So yeah, definitely on a great pace. This is a guy who can hit 35 plus home runs a year. I believe that. I believe Christopher Morel has the intangibles to be a great. He reminds me of a young Javier Baez, and I mean that in the best ways possible. But I also see the negative connotations that comes with that as well. Christopher Morel definitely doesn't take his pitches the way he should. Now he is leading the team in walks right now. He has 34 walks on the year, which is great. He's getting better. He's more disciplined than he was the years prior. But I definitely want to see him continue to grow before we just say Christopher Morel is the face of Chicago Cubs baseball. And I think that's the problem. We do not have a face of Chicago Cubs baseball. Even if it's Shota Imanaga, even if it's the man of steel, the Mississippi fastball himself, and Justin Steele, that's great. But you need an offensive guy. You need your Juan Sotos, your Aaron Judge, your Shohei Ohtani's, your Mookie Betts, your Freddie Freeman's. I mean, we can do Ronald Acuna Jr.'s, your Bryce Harper's. We can do this all day long. Even, hey, listen, I'm not rocking with St. Louis, but I'll be honest. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, when you have Nolan Arenado and a fire rookie at shortstop, okay, like you got some pieces you can build around. The Cubs have the pieces. If I could compare anything to this 2024 Chicago Cubs team, injuries aside, roster, let's look at the roster. They are the 1990 Bulls. And I'm talking 1990 to 1998. That's literally that whole era without Michael Jordan. That's the they don't have the GOAT. They don't have that guy that they're going to be able to go to, and they are going to be able to be the best versions of themselves 24/7. That's the problem. They don't have that face of the franchise player quite yet. And I think that's what we're looking forward to today. Now, the rumors are going around. Luis Robert Jr. on the South Side is available. There's rumors the Phillies are going to be interested in him. I'm curious to see what happens with that. The Phillies definitely have the farm system to be able to make a blockbuster trade like that, but as do the Chicago Cubs. I'm curious. I am curious to see if the Cubs are in on the Luis Robert Jr. sweepstakes, just because PCA hasn't turned into the top 10 prospect that he once was. He's been solid, but he isn't, you know what I mean? He's not Luis Robert Jr. And Luis Robert Jr. is on a dirt cheap deal, and it's insane. That's a whole different thing we can talk about later on, of why contracts like that exist. But, I think for me, man, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is probably the more realistic one. That is something to me that I think changes almost everything for the Chicago Cubs offensive woes. Craig Counsell has spoken about it so many times, about the injuries and next man up. But let's be quite real. Let's be real, quite real. I don't know what that was. I'm sorry. I didn't mean I didn't mean to sound like that. But let's be like completely real about the situation. The Chicago Cubs are fully healthy offensively right now, and they aren't looking any better. You're supposed to beat the Pirates. You're supposed to beat the Reds. You're supposed to. I don't care if they have Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie De La Cruz hasn't been great at Wrigley Field his entire career. It's just real. And they had so many opportunities to win those games. I mean, you're losing games. You lose over 14 of your last 21 games. And you're playing teams like the Rays, the White Sox, the Pirates, the Reds, the Cardinals. Like, these aren't tall orders. You did better against the Braves and the Dodgers and the Padres. Like, what? I don't understand how you're not winning these games, especially when Shota and Managa. I mean, a Shota shove day is almost a guaranteed W if you play it the right way. I mean, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. We got my guy Chris in here, not the Bulls. Oh man, the Bulls. Oh yeah, this is my little DeMar DeRozan Funko Pop for everybody that wanted to see it. I rock with DeMar. DeMar's my guy. But yeah, man. I mean, I really. I don't know. I don't know. I love this team. I'm diehard. I will rock with this team. And the reason we haven't done a live in 2 weeks discussing the Chicago Cubs is, one, I've been really busy with the Chicago Sky content. So definitely hit that follow button. Definitely check us out. You can check out our pod on Protect Our Queens at Give Us a Shot Network. You can check out myself. We're doing the Skyline 24/7. We're talking everything Chicago Sky on iHeartRadio's affiliate Give Us a Shot Network. So definitely give us some love. Give us some shout if you're watching this on TikTok Live right now. But in all seriousness, man, enough promoting. Let's be fucking real. The reason I didn't talk about the Cubs the last 2 weeks is because I'm not going to bore you guys. I'm not going to sit up here every single night and repeat myself. That's a problem. That's where you start to really realize what this season is. Am I going to get on here and say, yeah, man, injuries again, or yeah, man, we left guys on base, or oh yeah, man, the bullpen's horrible. Like, yeah, we can do that. There's no problem with doing that. But you guys don't want to hear it, and neither do I. So are we going to wait until we have a collective peace? I don't want to overreact. I don't want to underreact. Here's what we got. Over 20 plus games of dog shit. There's no other way around it. You call it what it is. There's no other way around it. Team's been ass. Team has been basura. Trash. Awful. No other way to talk about it. And to be honest, man, whether you like it or not, the team's got to make a move. I want to paint a picture. The Philadelphia Phillies, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos. None of those guys, JT Realmuto, none of those guys were drafted by the Phillies. Let's go across town. Let's go look all the way to the West Coast. Let's look at both teams on the West Coast, really, if we're being completely honest. I mean, you look at what the Padres did last year. You bring in Xander Bogaerts. You bring in Manny Machado. You bring in, who else are we bringing in? Juan Soto. I mean, you're doing everything you can. Blake Snell, Yu Darvish. Then you look at the Dodgers. You bring in Shohei Ohtani. You trade for Mookie Betts. You sign Freddie Freeman. What I'm hearing here, let's go all the way East Coast. You bring in Juan Soto again. You bring in Giancarlo Stanton. You bring in Garrett Cole. There are not a lot of teams that have homegrown players right now that are top 3 teams in the league. You got to make a move. You got to make them. As much as I love developing prospects, as much as I was a whore for the 2016 core, I loved watching all these guys come up in the rankings. Kyle Schwarber, Addison Russell, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez. Oh, man, Jorge Soler. The list goes on. Watching those guys develop, as Anthony Rizzo and Starlin Castro held it down at the friendly confines until they were ready. It was beautiful. It's a different day and age. It's a different day and age. You want to play ball? Hey, scared money don't make no money. We got to go out there. We got to sell some prospects, and we got to do what we got to do. I'm a firm believer right now. Vladdy Guerrero Jr., who had over 40 home runs last year. Currently on the year, Vladdy has 7 home runs, a 287 batting average, 30 RBIs, 36 walks, and an OPS of 795. In those categories, he would currently, on the Chicago Cubs, lead them in batting average, lead them in walks, and lead them in OPS. Now, the home runs, only 7 on the year, sure, whatever. It is what it is. Vladdy's Vladdy. And I have no doubt in my mind that if he got moved to the Chicago Cubs and played real baseball, he'd be excited about it. I mean, come on, Toronto baseball is not real baseball, and I'll stand 10 toes down and say that. I mean, it's just not. I'm sorry. But, man, I think and 30 RBIs compared to, 40 from Christopher Morel on a lackluster team. They're both bad. Don't get it twisted. But, I think, man, when I look at the situation with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I think the Chicago Cubs would be foolish not to go after him. I think when you have a farm system as deep as they do currently, James Triantos, one of the best second basemen in all of minor league baseball, Arizona Fall League MVP, top 100 player in baseball, top 3 prospect in the Cubs system. I mean, he's blocked by Nico and Dansby. He's not playing third. You have to look at it for what it is and understand that, as much as you love these guys, they're probably not going to be here the next time we win a championship. You just got to do what you got to do. I mean, that's a period, point blank. As much as I loved Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease, because, I love minor league baseball. As much as I love those guys. I mean, at the time, you got to do what you got to do to get a Jose Quintana. Period. And did that work out? No. Fuck no. But I will say this, man. I mean, I would do it again. You know what I mean? I would do it again because it got us to the NLCS, pardon me. But yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of different conversations that we could say right now to what the Cubs need to do in order to have success. But a lot of people believe, go get Luis Robert Jr. or just get bullpen, go get Mason Miller, go get, Class A out of Cleveland, or go do something else. You could do all those things. You definitely could. But to me, in my personal opinion, and mind you, I am a 24-year-old man in his mama's basement right now. I mean, I just don't see it. I just don't see this team being the team. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to. I would love Cody Bellinger to be MVP Cody again, like he was in LA. Go to several World Series, win one. I mean, he several Gold Gloves. I mean, the guy's a stud. But I gotta be in a "what have you done for me now? What have you done for me lately?" type mentality, I guess you could say. And that's pretty bad, bro. I mean, it's pretty bad. You know what I mean? Like, you got to look at it for what it is. A 260 batting average compared to last year's 300 batting average. There's a drop off. There is a drop off. And then shout out Jed Hoyer. Shout out Jed Hoyer, because all year long, all I was screaming all winter was pay Cody. Pay him over 200 mil. Do what you got to do. Just pay Cody. Cody's kind of showing me in the first half of this year that maybe we shouldn't have, and maybe it's a good thing we only signed him for a 1-year deal. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? You know what I mean? And I think that's really the big focus for me right now, is understanding who this team is and what they have the intangibles to do. This team, to me, is fighting to just make the playoffs. That shouldn't be Chicago Cubs baseball 3-4 years after trading the core. I mean, there's a reason you traded them and you didn't want to bring them back. You wanted to bring it into your own system. I understand Owen Casey isn't here yet. I understand Pete Crow Armstrong just got here. Michael Busch just got here. You're still waiting on guys like Cade Horton and Matt Shaw and James Triantos and Kevin Alcantara, the Jaguar, and so many others. Like, I get it. I definitely get it, and I understand where everybody's coming from. But fans are getting chirpy. If we miss the playoffs after making Craig Counsell the highest paid manager in all of baseball, oh man, one, Brewers fans aren't going to let you live it down. And two, Cubs fans shouldn't let Hoyer live it down. or Carter Hawkins. You got to make a move. To me, I think bringing in Vladdy would make the Chicago Cubs legitimate contenders. And I know that sounds crazy, but I am a firm believer that this bullpen will turn things around. I am a firm believer that somehow, some way, bringing in Vladdy would be the spark that this team desperately needs. There's no doubt about that in my mind. There isn't a single doubt. This team is lacking production. Vladdy comes in, he's batting 287. He can pump out 40 home runs a year at will. This team doesn't have that. You need an MVP caliber player. Is Vladdy an MVP? No. He comes to the Chicago Cubs. Does he have MVP potential if we start winning some games? Fuck yeah. Yeah, he does. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm fully on board with this. Now we're gonna continue watching the game tonight. We're gonna be doing more Cubs shows as the week continues. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody tuning in, man. It's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun just chopping it up with you guys again. We're going to be getting off the air on Give Us a Shot Network. So make sure you give us a like, give us a follow, check us out on Give Us a Shot Network. Until then, man, you can check me out. Tomorrow night, we'll be at the Sky game, Winchester Arena. Shout out to them. Connecticut Sun versus the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese. So make sure you stay in tune. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram at theshy.kid or Give Us a Shot Network for up-to-date everything Chicago sports-related content. Until then, peace.
Give them a shot to do what?